Hello and welcome to this special edition of Corruption Must Go. I am your host, Murna Barnabas Atiai. Happy International Women's Day. Corrupt practices affect people everywhere, but it is women who suffer the more from the negative impact as they account for the larger proportion of people living in poverty. Women experience lack of integrity when seeking for services from public officials, when running for political office and business environment, by virtue of their gender and their role as mothers, homemakers, and caregivers. Anything that affects them affects members of their family unit. March 8th is set aside globally to highlight the many issues facing women: bias, stereotyping, discrimination, and corruption, as well as to celebrate the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women.
The men cannot speak for the women. It's only women that can present women issues, and it will be done. So what we are saying is that just give us space to be part of you, so that we can table our issues in governance. That is all we're asking.
The theme for the 2022 International Women's Day is Break the Bias. On this special edition, we shall highlight the importance of challenging biases and addressing the negative effects of corruption on women. In the meantime, Joy Aja is standing by with details of anti corruption stories.
Hello, viewers. Welcome to the Women's Day edition of Corruption Must Go. I am Joy Aja. A former rector of the Federal Polytechnic of Gwashiuku, Delta State, Dr. Edna Mogeku, has been sentenced to jail for refusing to honor invitations on allegations of corruption from ICPC. Dr. Mogeku, who was sentenced to a 2-year, 1-month jail term, as well as 3 principal officers of the institution who were also convicted, were charged before Justice Marshall Umukoro of the Delta State High Court Asaba by ICPC over their failure to appear before investigators to clear themselves of allegations of corruption. The principal officers convicted alongside the rector by the court to 1-month prison term each are a former registrar, Collins Onyenwenu, a former bursar, Andy Ugusena, and a former director of works of the Polytechnic, Joseph Idabo. ICPC had earlier filed a 5-count charge against the convicts before Justice Umukoro, in which it accused them of repeatedly refusing to honor invitations from the commission. ICPC counsel Ogochukwu Iwoba had told the court that the rector and her accomplices, who were under investigation for acts of corruption by the commission, failed to appear for interrogations when they were required. The offenses allegedly committed in 2015 also consist of their refusal to honor an order to produce documents required by the investigators of the commission. Justice Umukoro, at the conclusion of trial, found them guilty on 4 out of 5 counts, and therefore sentenced the trial of the registrar, bursar, and director of works to 1 month imprisonment accordingly. The rector was found guilty on counts 1, 2, and 3 out of the 5 counts by the court. Justice Umukoro ruled that she would therefore serve 1 year imprisonment for counts 2 and 3 and 1 month jail term for count 1. The sentences will run concurrently, the court ruled. In another development, the chairman of ICPC, Professor Bolaji Owasonye SAN, has given the assurances of the Commission to the Nigerian Bar Association (NBA) that it would continue with its culture of upholding respect for the rule of law and dignity of persons while discharging its duty of fighting corrupt practices and other related offenses. Professor Owasonye, who stated this while welcoming the NBA Committee on Security Agencies Relation under the leadership of Mr. J.K. Gadzama stressed the need for the Bar Association to deal internally with lawyers that are unethical in their practice and also to train them to be people of noble character.
But when we've come to the situation whereby the NBA itself cannot control or rein in the behavior of some lawyers, and if it is thought that unscrupulous lawyers can hide behind the frame of the association in order to get the respect that they have not earned, I don't think it will work. And that will not be because law enforcement agencies are overbearing. This will simply be based on perception and the assessment of the reputation of lawyers by the public. At this level, we're having a conversation on interfacing between law enforcement and the legal profession. But what does the general public think about us? That's also something. You can't set up a committee on that. And if you do set up a committee, who are you going to be meeting with? You can only internally have to deal with how lawyers behave, the competency of lawyers, their character and their conduct.
Speaking earlier, the chairman of Nigerian Bar Association's Committee on Security Agencies Relation, J.K. Gadzama, stressed the need for effective synergy and collaboration between ICPC and the NBA in order to achieve more success in the war against corruption in Nigeria.
What has happened in recent times with many of the security agencies regarding lawyers and the performance of their professional and statutory duties for and on behalf of their clients gave rise to the urgent need to have this committee in place to interface with the security agencies in this country to promote good relationship that is symbiotic to both sides. That's the profession on one hand and the security agencies on the other hand. Of course, ICPC is one of such agencies. We know the emphasis of ICPC to recover loot, to prevent looting of our funds. But at the same time, when we talk of security, it is so generic because there is the security relating to physical protection of Nigerians, food security, financial security, etc., etc.
That will be all on this segment. Corruption Must Go continues. Happy International Women's Day. Remember to break the bias.
This is Corruption Must Go, ICPC's weekly television program, and our focus is the 2022 International Women's Day. Imagine a world free from bias, stereotype, and discrimination, a world that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive. That is a world that ICPC wants to see going by its vision of a Nigeria free from all forms of corruption and corrupt practices. ICPC's war against corruption is all-encompassing and recently has taken sexual harassment of students by lecturers as an act of abuse of office, which is against the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000. ICPC offers students the opportunity to bring their grievances about unwanted sex advances and corrupt demands by teachers and other authority figures to the Commission. Many are doing that, and the reports are being handled. There is the need for more women from various strata of the society to speak up and get involved in the fight against corruption. We spoke to a number of women, both young and old, on the subject matter.
Women suffer more because if you talk of water, lack of water, it is women that trek miles to go and fetch water from streams or wells. If you talk of health facilities that are inadequate, you and I know the issues of women's reproductive rights when they want to give birth, their maternal health, their children, their child health. All these things are tied to very good hospitals and good facilities. But when there's corruption, you don't have those facilities, the hospitals are not there, we don't have medicines in hospitals, and when women are pregnant, they don't get the kind of treatment or the kind of care they need. And so all this affects women when there are this corruption increases issues of infant mortality, maternal mortality, and so we must fight against corruption. Break the bias. There are bias of stereotypes, bias of marginalization in government work, marginalization in politics, marginalization in appointments, discrimination everywhere against women. The girl child are still roaming the streets, hawking instead of being in school. There are all sorts of marginalization, and we can see that women are being left out of governance. Women are being left out of decision making. So yes, the bias must stop.
What RAPA is doing in the area of ensuring women and girls puts out their voice out there in order to improve governance to the citizens in the area of anti-corruption. Majorly is RAPA had a project called Gender and Accountability that took place 2 years ago, which also had a follow-up of improved accountability and electoral accountability. We had those two projects, but for the GLA, it was basically ensuring that local women, girls and women in communities and societies hold duty bearers, both state and non-state, accountable. Like we had this program happened in 6 geopolitical zones. So in some part of the South and Southeast, we had cases of people, local women, holding structures, the duty bearers accountable to bad roads. Because at the end of the day, women and children and girls are always the ones that bear the brunt of these cases of corruption. You see that they are the ones that will go late to farm, they are the ones that will be staying late at the farm, they are the ones that will come back late, they are the ones that will go to stream at night, they are the ones that will ply bad roads, they are the ones that will want facilities in the hospitals that are not there. Several service provision issues that women are confronted with, aside from the everyday domestic hazards. So we are ensuring through RAPA that women and girls, whether educated, enlightened, are able, or even not so educated, are able to hold their leaders accountable, so that women are also enshrined in positions of leadership and have a voice to assert, to exactly say how they feel in the issues that concerns them.
Break the bias.
Women and girls, we break the bias.
girls have actually been doing a lot in calling out corruption. We have done a lot of things utilizing the social media. In fact, we have a campaign ongoing presently calling out #Calling-out-corruption on Twitter, and you can reach us out at Rapper NG. So a lot of things have been happening, especially in university spaces for women and for girls especially. We have the sexual harassment bill that we pushed for it to be passed. This is one way that we're calling out corruption in different spaces. Also, we are also pushing for women to be included in political spaces whereby our voices will be heard and all our demands as girls who are in the university spaces, who are in their workspaces, who are trying to look for work, so that our senior counterparts, will not take advantage of us, so that corruption will stop affecting us. We have a lot of ladies out there who are looking for work, who have experienced sexual harassment in different forms, and a lot of things. We have been doing a lot of things. We have been going for the public hearing, and by God's will, it has been passed. So I am saying that girls are doing more, and we are amplifying our voices, especially in Rapper, where we are doing a lot of programs that deal with women and girls coming together to demand for accountability from government, from our duty bearers, from leaders of faith and culture all together. So using this International Women's Day theme, I'm calling out every other lady out there, every other girl out there, that you're never too young and you're never too old to demand for accountability. Make sure you join the campaign calling out corruption and also break the barriers. Thank you.
First of all, I would say that over time, there has been minimal involvement of young girls and women in the fight against corruption, basically because of ignorance and cultural, societal belief, as well as expectation, where the brunt of a broken system, whether it's health, education, infrastructure, economy, is being felt more by the women. They are the ones that go through maternal issues. They're the ones that go through rape and abuse in the homes, and a lot of other vices. Education, the low level of education is mostly with the female gender. When it comes to employment, when it comes to documentation, legal protection, it's the women still at that end. But recently, and with the 21st century and a lot of enlightenment, education, awareness, and with technology and the break with global relations, there's been a lot of involvement of young people, especially young girls and women. We know about Malala, and I would say that it started with that. When Malala came out and spoke out against the intimidation of the female gender, a lot of young girls, especially in Nigeria and across Africa, started to gather momentum and so react to issues that they were being faced with. And we can see that in our advocacy system. We can see that in our networks. There are a lot of organizations that a lot of young people are championing. We have Yali Network across the whole of Nigeria. We have branches where young people, young ladies especially, are being taught about leadership, how to get involved, active participation, active citizenship, and engagement for different social issues. We need to be able to engage with these young girls right from family units. It's about time we stop telling the young lady, this is not for you, this is not how you should behave, this is what you should do. No, that's for the male child. There is no position, there is no job that you cannot vie for as a young lady. There is no level of attainment of leadership you cannot get to. There is no educational qualification that you cannot reach out for. There is nothing you cannot do that the male child is doing. Breaking the barriers.
Corruption has eaten deep into the nerves of Nigerians, and that is why we have agencies like ICPC, EFCC, and in all the federal government establishments, we have desks for these agencies to try to combat this corruption. But as you know, as women everywhere in the world, by our nature, we are bridge builders, we are mothers, and to some extent, we are not corrupt because we are straightforward and we are multitasking, we are into so many things, and the little you give a woman, you see that good results normally come out of it. The only way that the woman's voice will be heard is the inclusion of women into the leadership position or decision-making tables. That's the only way that the women's voices will be heard. I don't know why our men don't want to support the inclusiveness of women in governance. If you look at the few women that have been opportuned to occupy leadership positions at whatever level, be it local government or state or the federal levels or internationally, they have been doing very well. Women all over the world that were opportuned to occupy leadership positions have never disappointed the men. And that would have been enough reason to even give us space to include us in governance. We just, however, we are not angry. The men are our husbands, the men are our leaders, the men are our children. We are not competing with them. We are not competing with you. We just say give us space so that all women issues will be tackled. It's not going to work. The men cannot speak for the women. It's only women that can present women issues, and it will be done. So what we are saying is that just give us space to be part of you so that we can table our issues in governance. That is all we're asking. To me, with recent development in the National Assembly, I feel that the bias is going to be, the gap is further widened because we were thinking that time has come that our men will understand and reason with the men, especially considering our population, that they will include us, they will involve us, they will support us on issues that have to do with gender, so that they will bridge up the gap. But you can see that our men are resolute. They don't want that. So I don't know. We at the National Center for Women Development, our main mandate actually is to encourage to do gender research, gender documentation on women matters, and especially the empowerment aspect. So I'll just say that we continue to pursue our mandate so that our women will be more enlightened, so that our women will have something to do, and especially the educational aspect. Women are still lagging behind educationally. Please break the bias.
Greater participation of women in public life can help in the design of gender-friendly approaches to anti-corruption. This can reduce the corruption experienced by women in the first place and empower them to resist, report, and seek redress when it occurs. That's our package for this week. Remember that collectively, we can all break the bias to truly make a positive difference for women. Watch Corruption Must Go every Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. on the network service of NTA. You can follow us on our social media handles showing on your screen. Happy International Women's Day. Remember to break the bias.